Welcome to another United 009 video. Throughout aviation's history, we've seen many changes to the commercial aviation scene, which includes the move to ground planes from seaplanes, and the invention of the jetliner. So the next step after jetliners should be supersonic airliners, right? In today's video, we'll be talking about every attempt to make a supersonic airliner. By the way, we won't be featuring new/current projects like Project Boom. That's a topic for a different video. Anyways, let's continue on to the video. Supersonic aircraft weren't a new invention at this point, but every aircraft that could go supersonic was military. All airliners had propellers which were going out of fashion, or the jet engine. No commercial aircraft had afterburning engines at the time. Now, you may be asking, what's the real advantage of supersonic airliners? Well, let's look at an example. New York to London. How long does it currently take? Around 7 hours. With afterburning engines, it could cut down that time by hours. Of course, all this speed came at a cost. When an object is going past the speed of sound, or 1,235 kilometers per hour, it causes sonic booms. No, not that bad Sega game Sonic Boom. These sonic booms. They're loud, and at certain distances to the ground, it can even break windows off of buildings. Now onto the aircraft that we'll be talking about. First, we'll be talking about American attempts to make a supersonic transport, SST, which includes Douglas with their Model 2229, Corvair with their Model 58-9, Lockheed with their L-2000, North American Aviation with their NAC-60, and Boeing with their Model 733, which would later change to the 2707. Let's start with the ones that never got past the design stage. First with the Model 2229. This was Douglas's attempt to be selected for the National Supersonic Transport Program, a program made by Kennedy to help make a supersonic transport. Not much is known about this aircraft, but in 1963 it was removed due to a 1963 FAA recommendation. These recommendations were to make the aircraft Mach 2.2 to 3.0, 150 or more passengers, and operating costs approximately those of subsonic jets. The same fate happened to the Corvair Model 58-9. After many years, North American Aviation's NAC-60 and Lockheed's L-2000 were removed for Boeing's Model 733 design. And this is how it looked. It would have flown faster than the Concorde, and more passengers than the Concorde. And just with the Concorde, the speed brought up some challenges. Like with any other supersonic transport, the shape was highly streamlined, though it had something unheard of with a plane of its size: a variable geometry wing. What could this be used for, you may be asking? Well, during takeoff and landing, the wings would be pivoted forward like this, which would allow for lower flight speeds and increased control. And during cruise, the wings would be swept back to counter the extreme aerodynamic drag it would experience as it went 3 times the speed of sound. And due to this aircraft going extremely fast, the exterior would reach several hundred degrees Fahrenheit. Said temperatures could soften regular aluminum, and the last thing you want while going supersonic is having the aircraft get damaged because it was softening. So they had to make the fuselage out of titanium, and it would fly much higher than your normal subsonic jet. That meant more pressurization, so along with Concorde, the windows aren't that big, especially compared to the ones you find on your normal flight. Now, luckily for passengers, there would be an advanced in-flight entertainment system with a cabin full of televisions. and Boeing was confident that they could get their sucker in airline service by the mid-1970s. But the plane was pushing 1960s technology way beyond its limits. Now with the issues, the titanium alloy that was needed to make the airframe was expensive and hard to work with. The swing wing mechanism, aka what the plane was probably known for with some people, was complex and enormously heavy. So Boeing was forced to go back to the drawing board, and they came up with this, the 2707-300, which has a very similar design to the Concorde. And as mentioned before, supersonic booms were an issue, and it was estimated doing a transcontinental flight would produce sonic booms heard by around or over 5 million people. And in 1964, the people of Oklahoma City were subjected to 6 months of daily supersonic boom testing by the FAA and Air Force. The operation was called Operation Bongo 2. With all these supersonic aircraft flying over the city, the booms cracked the windows onto the tallest buildings in the city, and after a short time, the test ended. Over an astonishing 15,000 residents filed complaints, and a further 5,000 people made claims for property damage. So around 20,000 people filed complaints. And on top of that, a full quarter, 25% of the residents, said that they wouldn't be able to tolerate living with the noise. And this is a warning sign that officials seemed unwilling to acknowledge. And as the 1960s rolled on, the 2707 was plagued by technical setbacks. As with some of the SST projects by the Americans, the ambitious program requirements were not being met, and some anti-SST movement had grown from just a few concerned citizens to a major national coalition of many environmental organizations. And this growing public opposition to the sonic booms has spread to other types of fear. They worried that all these supersonic airlines flying at the high altitude were gonna emit enough nitrogen oxide to destroy the whole ozone layer. And even with a new president, NIXON, and the project costs ballooning out of control and being majorly delayed, funding for the 2707 still coming from the American government, though many could see that the aircraft's days were indeed numbered. And with the worsening economic situation happening in the country, the program was becoming a political issue quickly. Then finally, in 1971, the Senate rejected any further funding for the project, soon after Boeing killed the 2707 project. And 2 years after this, the FAA banned civil supersonic aviation over the United States. And this impacted the sales of the Concorde and any future supersonic transport. Now, let's get into the last two. Sud Aviation and BAC, British Aircraft Corporation, with the Concorde, and Tupolev and stolen Concorde blueprints with the Tu-144. Let's start with the Tu-144. This supersonic aircraft was the Soviets' attempt to answer to the Concorde. Nicknamed the Soviet/Russian Concorde, it was announced to be made soon after the Concorde was announced to be made. Now, I won't go too much in detail into the story because I mentioned it in my Was the Tu-144 a Failure video, but during the development of the Concorde, the Soviets stole blueprints. Now, let's get on to the most known incident the aircraft had. If you've done any research into the aircraft or watched my Was the Tu-144 a Failure video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The 1973 Paris airshow accident. During the Tu-144's demonstration flight, the plane broke midair. And only 2 years after the accident, the Tu-144 was officially introduced with the airline Aeroflot. Even though this aircraft was in development for years, like with many other things from the Soviet Union, there were many issues with it, and the loud cabin noise did not help. After 3 years of being introduced, the Tu-144 was retired from passenger service. The reasons were limited routes, just one to be exact, airframe issues, cabin noise, and more. In the 1990s, NASA was given some of the Tu-144s for testing, and was fully retired in 1999. If you want to see my video on the Tu-144, it can be found in the description below. Now, let's get on to the last aircraft for this video. The Concorde was the only joint supersonic aircraft being made, which were BAC, British Aircraft Corporation, later British Aerospace and now BAE Systems, and Sud Aviation, later Aerospatiale and now a part of Airbus. And in 1976, a year after the Tu-144 brothering was introduced, the Concorde was officially introduced. During the Concorde's lifespan, it was flown by many celebrities and influential people. And unlike the Tu-144, the Concorde lasted way longer, until 2003. If you watched my Was the Concorde a Failure video, you will understand that different airlines other than Air France and British Airways were supposed to use it. The reasons were cost per unit / aircraft, the Tu-144 Paris accident, environmental concerns, and the FAA ban on supersonic airliners flying over the United States of America. Now, let's talk about the accident the Concorde is most known for. I won't be going too much in depth about the story, as you can find it in the Was the Concorde a Failure video, which can also be found in the description below, by the way. This accident, of course, is Flight 4590. This scheduled flight from Charles de Gaulle Airport crashed after a part of a DC-10 engine bursted a tire, causing it to fling up and caused the fuel tank number 5 to get ruptured at its weakest point, which caused a fire to happen. Soon after, it crashed into a hotel. 4590 contributed to the eventual retirement of the aircraft. A few days after the accident, all Concordes were grounded during the investigation, and 3 years after the accident, the Concorde was officially retired. The reasons were reputation, efficiency, maintenance cost, profit, and a couple more reasons. So my final statement on why supersonic didn't become the future. The reason why I think that this didn't become the future of commercial aviation was because of all the restrictions, economical reasons, and cost of flights. It wasn't cheap to get yourself on a Concorde flight, so you're probably still using subsonic aircraft to get to London or New York anyways. Unless you're rich, powerful, or a celebrity. Though now, we are seeing new projects like Boom trying to bring back supersonic airliners. But this is a topic for a different video. Anyways, this is the end of the video, guys. Enjoyed it? Make sure you click that like button. Like the content I make? Press the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Want to see more of me? Check me out on Twitter and the official Discord server for this channel. Well, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.